Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Media Pending Podcast. Seja bem-vindos mais episódio do podcast.
No. This isn't a bilingual podcast.
It's not bilingual?
Nope. Sorry.
What
you
a
don't
shame.
speak English?
Okay,
I got three words for you. Too bad.
Too bad. So sad. Well, yes, welcome back to another episode of the Media Pending Podcast. I'm Jason, and who's this guy?
It's me again. I'm Aidan, the other one.
Gosh, again,
unfortunately.
Man, imagine a co-host like that.
The second we get our budget, I'm out. The second he can hire someone else.
As soon as we get another guest,
Put an ad up
it's just gonna be a solo podcast. Speaking of, go ahead.
I was gonna say, could you imagine an ad on Craigslist being like, looking for podcast host? And you just accept it and you get in, and the guy's just like, so he just like tries to have like a really like good like rapport with you, and you're just like, I don't even know who this guy is.
Who is this guy? Like, I guess the Craigslist ad would be wanted podcast co-host, must be good at lying / storytelling. I don't know, and he just like come up with stories where they were together, like, hey, you remember that time we went bowling in Canada?
That would be such a fascinating like podcast. Like, it would be such a great like case study. Remember that like that one YouTube channel that like Markiplier had? I never really watched it, but it was like the whole gimmick was like after a year it got deleted.
Yeah.
That'd be like a cool like kind of similar gimmick where it's like a short like 10 episode podcast where these guys come on and they act like they're like childhood best friends, and at the very end he's like, by the way, like, I met my co-host on Craigslist right before this podcast started. I don't actually know his real name.
I mean, like, if they had multiple episodes and a following, do you think people would believe them? I think it would just be this huge, like, paradigm shifting change. Like, wait a second, go back and listen for contradictions.
I think it would be more like they have zero following until like word of mouth gets around. Like, did you hear about those guys that did like a 10 episode podcast and they didn't even know each other? Like, I don't know. Speaking from experience as someone who's trying to build an audience for a podcast, it's not the easiest thing to do.
No, I think this is not like relevant at all to our topic today, but I think it's just putting stuff out there, having enough of a backlog, but more important than that is having something that people, want to listen to and want to watch, even if they don't know where to find it. Once you build a catalog of something good that certain people will want to watch and you've got your niche, then you just promote the heck out of it with TikToks and YouTube shorts, because algorithm loves those right now.
Yeah, having a catalog helps. It's definitely important to make sure you've got more than one episode.
More than one episode, yeah.
So that's what we're doing. Today's the second episode.
Oh, that's right. It says here, episode 2, A World Without Superheroes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what it says.
You're correct. I just checked it. You like how I switch tabs, you can see
the light change. Yeah, audio listeners, when he switches to a different tab, the color of the light on his face changes. Right now it's like a reddish, almost sunset-like, and if he clicks over, it's this fluorescent white light with some blue tones in there. All right, well, before we begin the actual professional quality, yeah, I've got this light up here, a photography light. Anyway, before we start,
myself with a lamp. I don't have a light. I just got this little lamp. I just scoot it close and I close the windows.
Yeah, it's kind of like Little Caesar's Pizza, how it's not good or high quality, and yet there was a time. It's hot and ready, yes, but there was a time when one of their taglines was like quality, quality. And I just, like, okay, false advertising. Show and tell before we begin. I was exploring the mountains, and I found this, like, ominous-looking book with nothing on the pages. It was at a vendor's stall in this small mountain town with a
you keep
growing
changing your
population.
Story. Were you in the middle of the mountains, or were you in a small mountain town?
Is Logan not in the middle of the mountains and also a small mountain town? It is encircled.
It's in a valley. It's a valley.
It's in a valley, a high mountain valley surrounded by mountains on all sides.
I found it in this enchanted shop called TJ Maxx.
But yeah, it's this cool like leather-bound book. It has, just blank pages. I plan to use it as a prop eventually, but also as a place to write outlines because it's just super, super cool. The one thing I do not like about this red leather book with these clasps is that if we open up the page a little bit, where is it? Right here. So if we pull that strap aside, you can see the logo of the people who made it. And it blends in okay, but it's like all these like woven patterns on this leather, and then it says Poetic Earth. Cool. Handcrafted journals. They do their best to make it look blended in, but it still kind of pulls you out of the immersion.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my show and tell. You have anything?
Sure. This is a coaster. It's a pretty cool looking coaster.
That's a coaster. Did you know that you can buy coasters at our merch store, gaminggiftables.com?
What?
Aidan is frantically typing. Crap. They didn't upload. There is a design for Gaming Giftables media pending podcast coasters that I just haven't uploaded to the website. But anyway, if you want some wild and funny merch that is for this podcast and also my YouTube channel, go to gaminggiftables.com for all of your funny, niche, Jasonian, and media pending podcast related goods and other things.
I did not know you had this.
You did not know about our merch store?
I mean, yeah.
Gaminggiftables.com. With posters like Born to Mine, Forced to Craft. Or actually, Born to Craft, Forced to Mine. My other car runs on Zonite. Probably the coolest thing on here, honestly, is the crafting table cutting board. Where it's just a bamboo cutting board with a crafting table overlay that's like laser engraved into it.
It's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
Huh.
Anyway.
Well, cool.
We have coasters will be available before this episode goes up. My apologies.
They won't look like mine.
I could go into... I could find that pattern. But anyway, superhero movies lately. Aidan, yes. You had a podcast with another friend previously where you talked a lot about Marvel movies.
Yeah, it was a lot about film. The previous podcast I was on, it's kind of the main niche that we both connected with the most on, as we like talking about different movies, but primarily Marvel, because that was just kind of what we had both connected on growing up. But yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like it's an oversaturated topic on the internet nowadays. I think anybody who has a podcast likes to talk about it, so I mean, might as well get it out of the way and talk about it on ours.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think they will stop making Marvel movies for a while, so it's basically an evergreen topic. But I think that's part of the problem, right? Like, It has been around for a long time, and they're past the point where they had a plan. And it seems like they're just treading water and trying to get things out the door as fast as they can. Like, I haven't even seen Love and Thunder or Quantumania, and I don't really feel like I'm missing out on anything.
Yeah, I finally watched Quantumania just to watch it, and I don't know, yeah, it definitely felt like it's at that point where it's like, oh, I don't really know if I care about these movies as much anymore. I mean, I still enjoy them, but like, I definitely think that no company or brand really epitomizes the whole suffering from success mentality as Marvel does currently, just because they've got, I mean, how do you put the brakes on a movie industry where, I mean, the narrative finale of Marvel was Endgame. Like, if you look at it as a structure of a story, Endgame was the grand culmination of everything. It ended everyone's stories.
And it was really good. I loved it. It was so good.
And it made, what was it, 3 billion, 2 billion, something? It might have been 3 billion. I don't know. It was the highest grossing movie ever for a period until freaking Avatar re-released. I'm still upset about that.
Yeah,
that was such a lame move.
It was just James Cameron wanting to be back on top. He's like, no, superheroes can't. No, blue people, yes.
No, my movie's been the number one grossing for, like, over a decade. I'm not ready to give up that time. Like, whatever. But, so, it's just like, the question is, like, how do you pump the brakes on something that earns that much money? And the answer is you can't. There's no studio executive out there who's going to go, you know, money is nice, but what's nicer is fulfilling story narratives, because we love our writers and we love making stories that people remember. No, they care about money. Like,
see, I agree, but I think they could have been a lot smarter about it. I think they could have had their cake and eaten it too. So you've got end of this decade and a half, almost 2 decade long arc, starting with Iron Man, ending with Endgame. And then you take a little break. You let the dust settle. You bring it back with TV shows, kind of like they did. But instead of pumping out TV show after TV show, you are a bit more methodical with it. I think Loki, well, it did have problems. It was a really good place to start. Loki is a fan favorite character. People are sad that he died. And you can start expanding a bit of the world that way. Basically, what they needed to do was they needed to slow down while they built the train tracks in front of them, right?
Yeah.
If we do a train analogy, they were on a pre-built track, essentially, from Iron Man to Endgame, and they reached the end of the line, but now they want to keep going. So you kind of idle the train slowly, while a couple miles ahead, you're building out the road. And I think they're trying to appear that they've done that with, like, the multiverse saga, but it is inconsistent and not enjoyable to watch.
I think they're starting it now. Like, I think that that's the kind of what they're trying to do moving forward, is they're trying to slow it down. And now that I think it's because what's his name? The head of Disney, the new guy that just got back in.
I always forget the difference between Iger and Chapek.
Well,
they're both Bobs.
They're both Bobs.
Yeah.
Okay. Chapek, I think Chapek's was the old one who's now back.
It's Iger now, yeah.
It's Iger now?
That's what it says on Google.
Okay, then I had it backwards. So it was Iger who was there for most of Marvel, and then Chapek was the one. I hope I'm not butchering this and have it reversed. But one of the Bobs came in, and his approach was like, his main focus was Disney Plus. That was like his baby, like his pet project, is he wanted to flesh out Disney Plus and make it just this huge, successful streaming service to compete with Netflix. And so when he went to all these companies, he was like, all right, Marvel, give me 5 shows in a year, because we need to just put all this exclusive content on our streaming platform so that people have a reason to go from other streaming platforms to ours. And just even having just the Disney catalog up to that point already available is a good selling point. Disney has so many classic movies. So, like, I don't think that they really needed to be pushing exclusive content as hard as they did at the start. But I think now that Second Bob is back, it does seem like they're trying to slow down. I mean, they've delayed everything.
Yeah.
And they're just going to, I don't know, take it slower from here, I'm thinking.
I think that strategy kind of bit them in the butt, though, because they were trying to push a new subscription service, right? And so people would come for a new show, use their free trial, and then leave. And so what they started to do is they started to space out their episodes more. So like a single free trial couldn't watch all of the episodes. So they've got this cycle of trying to build content that people want to watch, but once they watch it, it's not worth sticking around for. Disney Plus is not doing super hot in terms of revenue. I think in terms of active subscribers, it's doing okay, but it's definitely not profitable.
Yeah, because how long is a free trial?
Goodness, let me see. Disney Plus free trial. They've got a 7-day free trial now. That used to be a 30-day. Now they've got it to a 7-day.
A 7-day. Okay. Yeah, so that's just like you said, that does not make it possible at all to binge a single TV show. I mean, what you could still do is just wait until after the show you like is finished airing, and then you get it, and then you can watch it all in 7 days. But yeah, I don't know. I do hope they pump the brakes going forward. I am starting to get overstimulated by all of the Marvel content that has been coming out, and it's just, I don't know, it is just hard to keep up with.
Yeah, I agree. You had mentioned that you think that they're building the road ahead of them. What makes you say that? Do you know something I don't? What do they have on the horizon? The
fact that neither the X-Men or the Fantastic Four have even like appeared. The biggest aspect that they've appeared in is they had brief cameo appearances in the Doctor Strange movie from variants of both an X-Men character and a Fantastic Four character. But I mean, it's pretty obvious that those actors, John Krasinski and Patrick Stewart, aren't going to be the main actors moving forward in the MCU. So the fact that they've had those rights for years and have been sitting on them, and we know how long the production cycle usually takes in Marvel. We know that from start to completion, they can conceptualize a movie and have it completed within like 3 years if they take their time with it. They've been doing them faster than that. There's been shows that they've been doing in 2 years or less. But they've had the rights back to the Fantastic Four and the X-Men characters for, I want to say, almost 5 years now, if not longer. And they've yet to even announce who they've cast for any of these roles. There's been a lot of talk about the Fantastic Four, they're running auditions for it, and there's a lot of talk. I think the latest was that Adam Driver and Margot Robbie were rumored to have been cast, and now it's saying that they've both turned down the offer because they weren't going to get paid what they wanted to get paid. But whether or not that's true, there's no concrete evidence. But it just still goes to show, like, I think it's a good sign that they haven't done anything with those characters yet, and they keep pushing it back, because that makes it sound like they're trying to reformat the MCU going forward. And I think what we're seeing right now is the ugly middle period when they need to find movies to stall for time, when they're trying to find ways to fill the gap between Plan 1, which is the Avengers, and Plan 2, which is probably going to be like an X-Men centered Marvel universe moving forward.
You know, I could see that, and I think that's really the only option they have that they need, because they need to inject new heroes to get names in the seats. Who do they have right now? They've got, I guess they have Hulk still running around, but he's never been like getting people in seats. People aren't like watching Avengers for Hulk.
I think the biggest
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man's a pretty big name. He could be, I think he's a front runner for the next like Avengers lineup if they do one. But I think the biggest names they had after the Avengers was Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and Black Panther. Like, those were the big like hero characters. And, you know, unfortunately Chadwick Boseman passed away, so that kind of makes them have to rethink their structure of Black Panther. And I guess, I mean, they have a new one now, but I don't think that Shuri's Black Panther is going to sell as many tickets as Chadwick Boseman's Black Panther would have. But I don't know. I mean, they've yet to announce what they're doing with Spider-Man either. Although it's heavily rumored that they're going to do more with Tom Holland. I would expect them to.
Yeah, he's on a year-long acting hiatus, though. So
that's what I heard. Yeah.
Man, I guess they could try and lean even more into the multiverse concept to get different versions of the heroes that are dead.
I'm just so tired of the multiverse because they aren't using it in a way that's narratively interesting. They're just using it in a way to do fan service. Like the only function of the multiverse right now in any superhero TV show or movie is just to throw in a character that we know from another project.
You know, I mostly agree. I think it's really weird that of all concepts, the multiverse is the one that's kind of popping off right now. I mean, Everything Everywhere All at Once was a multiverse movie, and it did amazing. It was a unique story, and I think they utilized the concept of a multiverse in a creative and new way. But you're right, like Marvel with No Way Home, that was cool, but it was just like, okay, let's bring back the Spider-Man, and it was awesome, don't get me wrong, but it's not a really like huge exploration of that concept. And then Doctor Strange
was even worse.
Like I feel like they used the multiverse more in the weakest way possible.
Yeah, Spider-Verse did a good job with the multiverse.
Oh, yeah.
And it was because instead of showing you only other characters that we've seen in other movies, they're showing you the most absurd and abstract versions of the characters. Like, that's how you use the multiverse to make it fun. Like a Tyrannosaurus Rex Spider-Man. Like,
and the thing is, not all these
service.
versions of Spider-Man exist, right? There are comics where he already exists.
Yeah, so like it's fan service, but it's also just like it's serving to the story. It's just fun. Like,
yeah,
like that is the only. That is like the biggest gripe I have with No Way Home. I like No Way Home. I'm not going to be one of those people that's going to switch up on it and be like, actually, I never liked it. But it is frustrating that the only people you see get pulled over just so happen to be all the characters from the other Spider-Man movies. Like, would have been cool if there was just like one or two villains from like a random universe that we've never seen before. Like, that would have made it feel a little bit more like, okay, it really was luck of the draw. But
and that's one of the things that I think Across the Spider-Verse does really well. Like, the first villain we see in that movie is a version of the Vulture. Yeah, Renaissance Vulture, which was really cool stylistically. Across the Spider-Verse does use a bit of fan service a couple times, but not in like that's not the whole point of it, right? Yeah. Like, there was Donald Glover Prowler, there was Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire cameos as well.
And they weren't even like real cameos. They were just like in the background. You could see stuff. But yeah, no, I don't know. I think everyone's just like, I mean, even DC's leaning into the multiverse. I heard the Flash movie was all about it.
Yeah. So go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, and I'm even in a stage now where it's like, I'm kind of more excited for DC projects than Marvel moving forward, because at least DC is like revamping in a way. Like, it does feel like it's time for a fresh start from both Marvel and DC. Like, I would like to see a fresh start from both of them, but
yeah. So we're definitely getting a fresh start from DC, with James Gunn coming on, taking the lead, being like their Kevin Feige guy in the chair outliner. But also at the same time, I think that the bones left behind of the Snyderverse are sad, because I think if Zack Snyder hadn't had, personal life issues come up and had to go away, or if DC had just like pushed the brakes, like, okay, we'll wait for him to come back, we could have had something pretty cool. I think Man of Steel was a really good starting off point. Mm-hmm. I really like Man of Steel. I think Batman vs. Superman was okay, not great. I forget most of that movie happened. and then Justice League. I don't think there is a universe out there where Justice League is great, where it even approaches an Avengers level mass appeal or good. Even I do think that the Snyder cut of Justice League is better than the Joss Whedon version, but I don't think that's enough to redeem it, to make it like a Marvel Avengers status movie. It does make me sad though that universe that had been built up is kind of just being thrown under the rug.
Yeah, and I can understand the frustration, because as someone who's been fans of shows and movies that have built up and then never gone anywhere, it's really frustrating to see something you're emotionally invested in not have a payoff. I mean, you want to see the story get told and you want to see it finished. I do think, though, that it is time to let it go. I think that Snyder cultists, as I feel like they've often earned that title, I think they do a lot more harm than good in the whole face of DC. I think that there's a vast majority of people who are just unwilling to let go of the past. Zack Snyder is not coming back. He isn't. Restore the Snyderverse. It's not happening. It's not going to.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, maybe in 20 years, if the studio just does a complete 180 and like reflips it, but those characters, those storylines, they're gone. They're done. They're doing something else. And I think that the funniest like rivalry I've ever seen online is this whole Snyder versus James Gunn rivalry. Why? Why are they rivals? Just because one got hired to be the new DC, and now all of a sudden it's, oh, Snyder's so much better than James Gunn. Why are these two rivals? Like, I doubt they even like care about each other. Like, and it's just
the only good DC movies in recent memory are ones that I haven't seen, admittedly, but I'm just going off of critical response, are the ones that James Gunn directed. Like the Suicide Squad,
just the Suicide
Peacemaker.
Squad, and Peacemaker, the TV shows. But the movies, The Flash, this new one coming out in a month, which has had no advertising. Do you know what DC movie's coming out in a month?
Blue Beetle?
Blue Beetle, yeah, I was going to quiz you. There's been like nothing. There's been one trailer for it. It comes out in a month. DC is trying to run that movie into the ground, and they did kind of a similar thing with The Flash, and DreamWorks did a similar thing with their animated movie that just came out. Like, it seems like a lot of studios, if they don't like the movie, they will just spend nothing on marketing. If they're like, this movie's not going to do great. So we'll see what happens with Blue
Beetle. That's really
Beetle.
strange. Because like I remember seeing on Twitter that James Gunn said that Blue Beetle is technically the start of his DCU.
So there's a miscommunication with that, and a lot of people are confused. The specification he made, which is confusing, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me yet. But he said Blue Beetle is the first DCU character, but Superman Legacy is the first DCU movie. So I don't really know what that means, but it does enough to say that Blue Beetle is not the first movie in his DC. And the other thing about James Gunn, like, he's the head of DC now, but he hasn't really done anything yet as the head of DC. So like all this like hate on the Flash and people like hating on the Flash and directing it at James Gunn, it's like, why? He didn't do anything.
He was defending it.
It's like he joined DC when the movie was already done. Like,
I mean, yeah, so like it makes sense that it's his job. That's why he would defend it. But he has been a vocal defender of the Flash movie. He's like, yeah, it's one of the best things come out of DC in a long time, and I haven't seen it, so I can't really say with any authority, but I've just heard that it is fan service the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, so. I don't know. I mean, my opinion on James Gunn DC Universe is wait and see, because I like what James Gunn does with his movies, and I think people think that he's just gonna turn Superman into a joke character, and I don't know. I don't agree with that. I think he's more capable as a director than people think. I don't think everything he does is just all jokes and just stupid. And also, Superman is supposed to be a lighthearted character. He's supposed to like be like a symbol of hope, and like he's supposed to be like the epitome of like what we should strive to be as humans. He's not only stronger than a regular human in every physical sense, but in every emotional sense. He is like the peak of humanity. That's literally what his character is. And I liked Man of Steel as a movie, but as a Superman movie, and even Henry Cavill has gone on record saying that he always wanted to play a more hopeful Superman. That was the biggest regret of his time wearing the cape, is that he only got to play a dark and broody Superman. And he says he regrets that. He said he wished he could have gotten an opportunity to play Superman with a bit more levity. So,
yeah, it's really frustrating to me because the perfect version of the DC universe already exists in the motion picture medium. And that is the Bruce Timm animated DC universe. Yeah. Disregarding the fact that Bruce Timm is sometimes aggressively horny, the cartoon universe that he made is really, really good. Starting from Batman the Animated Series, and in my opinion, ending at Justice League Unlimited. And I guess you could go into Batman Beyond as well. But those eras of like mid-90s to late 2000s cartoons are the best versions and depictions of these characters and the worlds that they're in. Superman is still the beacon of hope. He's still an optimistic good guy, but he's also flawed, as all people are. He sometimes gets blinded by his preconceptions of people, especially villains, not being able to change. So if someone likes DC and they want a huge back catalog of really good content, I cannot endorse the Bruce Timm stuff more.
It's funny how so much of the best superhero content out there comes in the animated format, and I just wonder if it's just like, if somewhere in like the movie production world or media production, there's just this like trend where executives care a little bit less about the direction of animated shows compared to movies, and they just give writers more freedom. Because recently I went and I just binged through the entire Spectacular Spider-Man series from back in like the early 2000s that had gotten canceled, because I kept seeing a bunch of buzz about it because the Spider-Man from that show was apparently going to be in Spider-Verse and people were talking about it. So I went and watched it, and yeah, it was a fantastic show. Like, even today it still holds up. It's got one of the best Spider-Man. What?
I can tell you why just right now, because the origin for all of these stories and characters was on the page. It's in illustrations, and animation is just that. It is a carefully crafted frame by frame world where every element of the story has to be thought out before it is put into motion. And if we think about like Marvel and what they've been doing, they're essentially animated movies. How much CG is in a single Marvel movie?
Yeah. No. It's crazy. They do so much.
Yeah. So the reason that so much superhero media that's fantastic and great is animated, I think it's because it harkens back to its roots of being drawings on a page. But the reason that studios push so much for live action is just because it makes so much more money. For whatever reason, people don't see animation as a serious medium.
Which bugs me. It seriously bugs me. I'm a huge animation enthusiast. I think some of the best content being made right now is animated content. Some of the best 100%. Movies, some of the best TV shows. If you want good original stories, like straight up Invincible, that's a superhero TV show. It's incredible.
And I don't think everything should be animated. No, because I can't imagine a world where like Game of Thrones was an animated series. I think things like that and high fantasy can lend itself really well to live action to make it more visceral and grounded.
Yeah, I think they should both exist. I just think that one just needs a lot more attention than the other. Like, I think animation just deserves a lot more praise. And yeah.
That it should not be just like at awards ceremonies at like the Oscars. It's just, or the Academy Awards rather. It's just like the award for animation when animation is a medium and there are different genres inside of it.
Yeah.
So that's what I think.
Yeah. I'm not necessarily against the delineation between best animated feature and best film at the Oscars. I do think that they should have two different categories because they're both very different styles of movies.
Oh, I agree. I just think that there should be more animations categories, like best overtly children animation, best stop motion animation,
best art direction in a movie, an animated movie.
So there should just be more respect and more awards going to animation instead of just a single blanket statement award.
This is a podcast episode in its own, animation. We could go on and on.
I mean, we are a little bit over our time anyway, but we're having a good conversation, a good time. Let's see. Anything else you want to talk about in terms of superheroes?
I mean, there's so much to say. There's so much to debate. I guess my only thing is if you want to hear more of my opinions on the whole superhero conundrum, you can go check out my old podcast. It's still up there. Top Talks. It's TAWPTALKS.
Nice. I've been listening to some of those recently just to like work on to notice the rapport between you and Tama, because it's pretty good most of the time. I like your podcast.
The difference between a superhero conversation between you and I and Tama and I is Tama's a lot more
he's
positive.
An apologist. He's a defender.
He's very he's very positive on the whole state of the superhero. So when I'm talking to him, I'm not as cynical as I sometimes feel because I don't really want to butt heads with Tama as much. But so yeah, I guess if you want to listen to a happy note about superheroes, like we're usually a lot more nice about it.
Yeah, we could get Tama on here in the future someday. That'd be fun.
Oh, yeah, we should.
All right. Well, I think that's it. So thank you so much for enjoying our podcast, our Media Pending podcast. If you enjoyed, be sure to like and follow on whatever platform you're on. Did you agree with our takes on superheroes? If you did or did not, we'd love to hear from you. Give us a comment on YouTube, or you can email us at jason@mediapendingpodcast.com. And we hope to see you next time. Bye.